Shit yeah, dude, man, everybody. Welcome to episode 2 of the Eclecticide podcast. First off, let me start by saying thank you for everyone that listened. We got a bunch of listens, and these listens are ranging anywhere from, I think, Peru, the Netherlands, Southern California, the East Coast in random places, higher up north in the United States, and a lot in Texas, of course, as to be expected since we are in Houston. But man, I cannot be happier. It's amazing. It's taking off, and I just appreciate that people are listening to at least not what I have to say at this point because they've been interviews, but at least listen to my questions, you know. So coming up this month, you know, we're going to do this episode, but after that, we're going to do a couple more random episodes, so that way we can get away from the entire interview format just briefly. I'm trying to set some other stuff up, and I think that's gonna be really cool too, because there's a lot of things going on in the area and a lot of things just going on in general that I don't want to ignore. So needless to say, man, it has been badass, but it's been keeping me busy, emails and all this stuff. I'm trying to figure out logo situations, and people either want a lot of money or very little money for shitty work, and I'm really not about that. So if you know anybody, throw them my way. We'll figure it out. Somewhere in the middle between inexpensive and expensive is kind of where I'm at. Anyway, back to the matter at hand. Episode 2. We're talking about fucking Exhumed. All right, and if you don't know anything about this, let me break it down for you. You're talking about a dude, okay, named Matt Harvey. He started this band, basically started playing in bands and stuff in 1991. So, I mean, we're talking years and years and years have gone by. 1991. He starts Exhumed in 1998, so we're talking 20 plus years in the industry. It's amazing, okay? So he was nice enough to give me some time to talk about his new album, which comes out this coming Friday, October 4th, and then a tour starts like immediately after. He's going to be in the Houston area shortly thereafter, and we'll cover all that in the interview. But he was nice enough to take times out of his day, and what I thought was hilarious and random was just he had to take his dog on a walk, so we kind of went on the walk with him. You can kind of hear him kind of jostling around and such, because just a normal dude, but he couldn't have been nicer, couldn't have been a better guy, and I think that the interview went really, really well. Not that the first episode wasn't, but yeah, so let's get that started. This is Matt Harvey with Exhumed.
Awesome.
All right, so we're here with Matt Harvey of Exhumed. So how you doing today, Matt?
I'm doing pretty well, man. Thank you for having me. How are you?
Oh, fantastic. Thank you for giving me some of your time, actually, man.
Oh, yeah, no problem.
So what I wanted to do was just ask you some questions kind of about your career, you know, starting off, but then more so this new album and everything that's going on for you right now. My first question that I kind of had is that, like, I mean, 1998 was quite a while ago, and you know, I mean, it's not that far, but it's getting there. So, like, what kept you kind of pushing and still churning out consistently aggressive music and just in changing climate? You know, I know that you've gone through tons of members and just, you know, you've played for different bands and things like that. So what kind of kept you coming back to Exhumed and just moving?
You know, it's I don't know. I mean, I guess at this point it's just sort of, you know, my thing, you know, that obviously it's a band. It's not like a dictatorship or whatever. But I guess having been the primary songwriter for so long and the front man or whatever, it's just kind of like a place to, you know, vent. And there's a nice history set up there at this point to kind of build on, or to use as a framework, you know. And I still like the same records I did when I was 15 in 1991, and we were, you know, starting to try and put a band together.
Right.
So, you know, it's all of those things, really. And at this point, you know, it's been such a big part of my life for so long. You know, we took a hiatus or split up or whatever for like 5 or 6 years. And that was a really weird anomaly, you know. It wasn't necessarily just about not being in Exhumed, but not being in an active band. It was recording and touring and stuff that just felt really really weird, So I don't know. It's what I know, and it's what I like, and I still enjoy it, and I still, hopefully, I feel like the band still has something to say and something to contribute to the scene. I mean, I don't know if that's really for me to say, but I think we're.
It seems like it seems like the album's kind of talking for itself, and the band's speaking for itself as far as having such a strong footing. I mean, consistently you've been on charts on Decibel and things like that. It's not like you're just irrelevant. It's still holding true. So,
well, thanks. That's encouraging.
But going back to those early years, like what about the genre like reached out to you? Like, why was it the like kind of the gore genre specifically that you kind of tend to latch onto?
I think with the gore thing, it really goes back to before I even listened to metal. When I was like 10 years old or whatever, I was really into Toxic Avenger and Reanimator and Evil Dead 2 and Hellraiser and the movies in the mid 80s really that I could get my parents or my friends' parents to rent for me and my little elementary school buddies. And I think I've always had, some sort of, I don't know. I mean, I guess you call it like an aggressive streak or some kind of like male testosterone excess or whatever. I used to get in trouble for fighting at school all the time. And anyway, I would like to curse and spit and shit when I was a kid. Right. So I think, there's, a lot of kids have that aggression, not just little boys, but a lot of kids have that aggression. And I think, you recognize that when you're watching stuff that's really violent or whatever, it's a way of kind of getting it, kind of letting those emotions be vented without actually like going and, getting in a fight or whatever.
Right.
And then when I discovered metal, it definitely was sort of the sonic equivalent to all of those, violent, gory movies. And, especially when I heard Scream Bloody Gore, and I guess it would have been 1988, that really drove it home, because obviously Evil Dead is about Evil Dead, and Regurgitated Guts is about City of the Living Dead, and so on and so forth. I was like, this really is the same, the same sort of itch is getting scratched by the horror movies and, the more intense metal. And, that was, to me, that just made sense, even as far back as, Black Sabbath was a horror movie, right, before it was a band. So, right. I think it fits together really nicely.
Right. Now, I know that you've said before that, the whole gore thing you always use more as like a metaphor, that you don't literally want to do these things. It's nothing like that. I think your quote was the gore metaphor keeps you from being, quote, a preachy, pretentious douchebag. Was it
right? Yeah, when we were doing like Necrocracy and stuff, especially, it was a really political album, and I tried to obfuscate some of the politics, so it wasn't just like, some of the hardcore bands I like. Like Drop Dead, I think is one of the, the best. And you go to their shows and they play like a 1 minute song, and then you get like a 2 minute diatribe about veganism, and I'm like, dude, I know about veganism. It's fine. I just want to hear the next song. Like,
right,
get off with it. And I didn't want to, do something that was so, sort of didactic or whatever. I'm not a teacher or whatever. I'm just a guy venting my frustrations, and this is the sort of aesthetic that I have to do that. So, it varies from album to album. Some albums, like the last record and this new one, they're really just straightforward horror. They're just about what they're about. Whereas, maybe like Anatomy is Destiny and Necrocracy and All Guts No Glory have a lot more subtext. So, I don't know.
Right, and I believe was it 2017's Death Revenge was kind of like your first concept album, and it was like more of like a story as opposed to just a straight, gore album. Would you say?
Right. It is like 100%. Like it's just like Abigail or Dimension Hatros or whatever. But, not as good, but it is a pure concept album. and it's based on the anatomy murders that took place in the late 1820s and early 1830s in Scotland and so on and so forth. And you can read all about it, or you could buy the record and read the lyrics or whatever. But it's all, historically based, and it was, I did a lot of research, and it was the first record that we ever did where I'm like, oh, well, I've read, 2,500 pages of research now.
Right.
Or maybe 1,500, but still, it was a lot of reading and note-taking and stuff.
Well, I'm sure,
So
it's a little different going from that to just, writing some just brutal tunes. You're just sitting around, saying this is the ideas in my head. You're not having to follow a specific scope or trying to figure out how it's going to fall out in like a timeline,
Yeah. So, I mean, that was an interesting challenge. And, I think the record came out pretty good, and I don't know, people seem to think it was okay. So, I mean, hey. And then we did this new album, which is, kind of the exact opposite. It's really sort of underthought out. It's very, ignorant, I guess, is what the kids say nowadays.
Yeah, it's very. I mean, it's very upfront. I got the PR people sent it to me a couple days ago, and I was listening to it. I mean, it's just there. It's in your face. There's not really a way around it. And sometimes you need that. That's a good thing. So there is like a massive difference. That, I mean, after hearing, knowing that Death Revenge was a concept album, to hearing horror, I mean, it's still aggressive, and you can still say like, okay, that's Exhumed, but everything's just a little, it's just heavy, which I'm pretty sure is kind of what you were going for, I would hope.
Yeah.
So are you still I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, when you played the same style of music for, 20 plus years or whatever, it's hard to find kind of new ways to make it non-repetitive. So thank you. I appreciate that.
Right. And I know in earlier years you've mentioned that you always tend to kind of like to stay to the more original writing style of like a chorus, verse, chorus, bridge, verse, you know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Do you still stick to that pretty heavy? I mean, I can hear it a little bit in the new album, but I mean, an untrained ear has a hard time kind of picking out those sort of nuances in deathcore or grindcore or anything like that. But you find yourself still, after 21 years, still holding true to that?
Yeah, I think, that was kind of the big thing that differentiated us, when we were starting out, is that we would just have these songs that were, fairly repetitive compared to, Suffocation or Deeds of Flesh or Dying Fetus and so on and so forth. And, that's been our thing, is really sticking with more of like a pop kind of formula, where if the song is called, Bleeding Face, then we say Bleeding Face during the chorus, and the chorus comes up again, and we keep saying Bleeding Face or whatever. So, I mean, it's definitely still there on the new record. The songs are so short that they kind of blurs by, and but hopefully they're all still songs. But that was something that was important to us, that we were trying for, was to make sure that, hey, if this song's only, a minute and 10 seconds, it's still a fucking song, and it still has a chorus, and it still has a shape, and, it still feels like it's justified. It's not just like a blast of extremity, because we've been hearing that since, the late 80s.
Right. So that's the new album's Horror comes out, October 4th?
October 4th, that is correct. It's drawing nigh.
Right. It's coming up quick, man. So I think I've read two different things. Is this the 7th album or the 9th?
I mean, the way I look at it is the 7th. Right. I mean, it just depends. Like, we have an album of covers, which to me doesn't count. Yeah. And then we did a re-recording of our first album, which to me also doesn't count. So to me, this is the 7th album. People can count however they want, but that's how I look at it.
Right. And as far as the band goes on this album, I mean, outside of, like, I think you have a newer guitarist, was it Sebastian, being the most new, but like most of these guys are pretty respectively new to the lineup. I mean, comparative to your 21 to plus years. You're talking, some people have been in the band going on 7 to 8 years.
Yeah, Mike joined, I think, in 2011, Mike Hamilton, and this now is his third record he's recorded with us,
Okay.
at least in the way I'm counting. So, you know, I mean, we've been working together for like almost 10 years now. And then our bassist, vocalist, Ross, he was in a band back when we were doing demos in 94. And then he left after the first album in 99. And now he's been back playing with us for a few years, and this is his second record since being back in the band.
That's
So
good.
it feels like a pretty stable lineup. And, you know, Mike and Ross and I are all from the Bay Area, and we're all, you know, gentlemen of a certain age.
Right.
So we have a lot of the same background, and, you know, we all understand each other and get along really well. And so Sebastian came and slotted into that really, really excellently, though, despite, you know, being the only guy in the band in his 20s. And, you know, he's been playing in Noisem for a long time, and he, you know, he's a real down-to-earth, mellow dude, and, you know, we have a lot of the same influences and stuff as well, which is really important.
That's good. But
So, I think he did great.
I mean, it sounds like most of the guys are pretty excited. You know, I'm sure y'all are all ready to get out on the road and start showing this to people. So your new tour, starts on October 31st in Austin is where you're starting?
Well, typically our tour starts on October 27th.
Uh-huh.
We meet up with Gate Creeper, who we're co-headlining with, on Halloween in Austin. Before that, we have a couple days with just ourselves and Necrot. Necrot is also on the whole tour with us, Gate Creeper and Judiciary. And then after the Gate Creeper and Judiciary guys go home, we have another 5 or 6 shows, or 4 or 5 shows or something with Necrot and Deathgrave out here, just kind of hitting the last few cities that this tour didn't really, this Gate Creeper tour didn't really hit. So it's going to be, for us, it's going to be a 6-week tour. So I'm excited. I'm definitely ready.
It'll be a pretty busy end of the year for you guys then, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah. I mean, we're going to, you know, it's cool because we've always had different issues, it seems like, with each album. And this time, finally, we have a record coming out. We have a tour, you know, with a good package going out right after the album's out. And, you know, people are excited about the new Gate Creeper record. Hopefully they're excited about our record. And I think it's going to be a good one.
I mean, that's the thing with this right now. There's so many good albums coming out in the next couple months, and there's so many great tours kicking off. I mean, it's crazy. It's almost like the last 3 years, it's just been, you know, one after another, after another, after another. You know, Exhorter just to drop their new album, and it's awesome. You know, we got yours. I'm hoping soon to talk to Joel from Toxic Holocaust, because I think
their album's coming out on the same day.
Man,
yeah.
I mean, dude, I'm looking forward to that one. I know y'all worked with him on this album. He produced, or did he just engineer?
He mixed and mastered the record. We engineered and produced it here in St. Louis Obispo with our live front of house guy, Alejandro Corridor, who also plays with me in one of my other bands. So Joel definitely kind of came in at the end and spit shined everything, locked it in, and did a really good job. I mean, I've known Joel for a long time, and, you know, I kept kind of meaning to get around to working with him, and we were actually going to record the whole album with him, but then we ended up building our own studio, so we went a different direction. But, yeah, he definitely came in and helped us get everything to where it needed to be. And I haven't heard the new Toxic Holocaust yet, but the preview track was really good.
Yeah. How was that experience, recording at home, like in your own studio, versus going somewhere and, you know, maybe making that drive every day and all that? Was it more relaxed? Do you feel like it kind of helped with the working the album, or was it like more stressful, or was it more of an issue? Like, man, I'm at home, I don't want to like do this, you know?
It was more stressful because we built a studio. Our drummer Mike he works in construction, so he was sort of like the lead builder on the project, and we were in there every day after work. And we had people moving into town, we had people moving out of town, we had all kinds of different shit going on, and of course we have our regular jobs and our, you know, significant others and such. So it was incredibly hectic. We were supposed to start recording on March 1st and leave for our Latin American tour on April 2nd, and instead we started on March 18th. So we were really, really down to the wires, and it was not relaxing at all. But I keep hoping, maybe the next album is going to be the relaxing one. We'll see.
Maybe. I mean, the only way you're going to know that is if you just keep on putting out more and more stuff, and I don't think anyone's going to complain about it. So, I mean, well, you've been around for a while. I mean, 21 years is nothing to scoff at in this industry. And I mean, come on, if I remember correctly, y'all have had your own hot sauce, right?
We have had our own hot sauce, yes.
So I mean, like that in and of itself is just a massive thing. How many people can say that they've like eaten a wing just covered in another band's hot sauce? Take it as you will.
And our hot sauce is really good, and it's very hot.
Is it still available?
Yeah, we have some at our Big Cartel site. I think it's just exhumed.bigcartel.com. We have some hot sauce. We have some demo cassette reissues. We got some 7-inches, some shirts, all kinds of junk on there. So
awesome. Now the album Horror, like we said, comes out October 4th. What as far as distribution wise, do you know anything of that, or is the best bet just to go to the album and go see you guys on tour and pick it up that way? Or
I mean, that's always nice because we get a larger share of the money, but at the same time, I'm all for people buying it from stores whenever possible, or wherever you can get it. Obviously it's on Relapse, like all our records, so it's going to be pretty much as available as records are nowadays.
Yeah, Relapse is really good about that. I mean, they have such a stacked lineup of artists over there that if as long as you're not trying to go to like a Best Buy, you can generally find 90% of what they have out. It's a good thing.
Yeah. I like Relapse because they're one of those labels where I don't think there's any label, but I would be like, I like all of these albums, but they don't put out anything where I'm like, wow, this is just, I can't respect this. This is fucking stupid. It's like, hey, it might not be my thing, but I'm like, all right, I get it. Cool. So it's nice to, not have to worry about being surrounded by like cringe-inducing bullshit.
Right. Well, I was fortunate enough to get the album a little early, but my plan as of now is I live in Houston, so you guys are rolling through there November 2nd at a small a small venue down here called the Secret Group. That's pretty new. I haven't checked it out yet, so I'm hoping to get by there then, and I'm going to snag up a hard copy of the album.
Killer. Yeah. No, Houston's one of my favorite places to play, actually. So should be a good gig.
Well, I'm looking forward. I haven't really paid too much attention to Judiciary, and so I'm really excited about it. You'll have a good lineup on the tour, honestly.
I think so. Yeah, Judiciary is kind of like a crossover, like hardcore thrash kind of thing.
Yeah.
So if that's your cup of tea, you'll dig them.
I have a very, very strange cup of tea. That's why I'm calling the podcast Eclecticide. So I'm just going to kill you with how all over the place I am. But that's the thing, man. Is I just love so many different genres, but I mean, and that's why I think metal always struck me, because in one genre you can have 30 different ways that everyone's going. You have the
right, and
thrash metal, death fans, and hardcore. This, and this, and this. There's just so many genres. It's something for everybody.
Yeah, and I think it is really important to listen to all fucking kinds of music. I know some people that only listen to metal and they listen to a lot of like really shitty metal. I'm like, why are you listening to a metal band that's trying to sound like The Cure? Just fucking listen to The Cure, man, and cut out the middleman. And
right.
We all listen to a pretty fucking wide range of stuff. I think I like everything that's not like reggae, ska, or opera.
Right. Well, so the new album Horror out October 4th, tour to follow starting in about October 27th. You said. With that being said, man, I'm not going to eat up too much more of your time. I have one more question.
Fire.
Free for the answer. It's, what historical figure would you give your entire discography to, and why?
Who I give my entire discography to?
Yeah, out of all of history, man. Yeah, like.
I mean, is it like in person, like you meet them and be like, hey, I want you to have this kind of thing, or is it just like you send it to them in the mail?
No, yeah, you get to meet them and explain it to them.
Okay, I would. Then in that case, I mean, I guess I might be stretching the definition of historical, but I would give it to Jack Kirby, who's the comic book artist who co-created like 90% of the Marvel superheroes in the movies, as well as tons and tons of other pop culture properties.
Right.
Simply because he's my personal hero, and he was probably like one of the most prolific artists in the history of comic books.
Right.
And one of the most influential, and he's certainly influenced me to sort of be prolific and to keep working year after year after year after year in this stupid industry that I found myself in. So he might get a laugh out of it, and I would get to thank him. So that would be more than worth it.
Well, Matt, that was awesome, man. I really, really appreciate you for your time and just, letting me go along on your dog walking adventure today.
Thanks, buddy. I appreciate it.
So I look forward to seeing you in Houston, and then good luck with the new album tour, man.
All right. Sounds good, man. Cheers.
Thank you.
Thanks, bud. Bye.
Well, there you have it, dudes. Matt Harvey from Exhumed, new album, Horror, due out October 4th. That's this Friday. It's going to be everywhere. You can get it on their website, or if you'd like, you can wait until Halloween, Austin. That's where the tour starts. All right, guys. November 2nd, they're going to be in Houston at the Secret Group. It's a phenomenal venue. It's new. It's young. The music isn't. It's going to be awesome. It's going to be a really good time. Stop by and say, Matt, and say, hey, buddy, heard you on the Eclecticide podcast. With that being said, we are now on Spotify, Podcast Addict, Google Podcast. I think the only one that's getting kind of difficult to find us on is iHeartRadio. Other than that, man, it's just going to be smooth sailing. So please like us on Facebook, share us. I do enough of it. You'll know where to get it. But again, Exhumed. Let me play y'all out with a little bit of music.
This has been a Rhyme or Reason production.